Hey guys, hello, hi, welcome to the sixth installment of the end of the year video series and wishing you a very happy new year 2022. Please stay safe and I hope this year brings you health, wealth, happiness and also a lot of books. Okay, so happy 2022, and I thought this would be a very good day to basically just get done with the December 2021 wrap up, because if you thought that I'm not going to do a wrap up because there's an end of the year series, no, that's not the case. I want to talk about the books that I read in December, and I also want to recommend more books that you can read in this particular year. Okay, so that being said, let's jump right into it. And the way we are going to do this is in the order that I read the book. So of course, you know my favorite fiction, you know my favorite non-fiction of 2021, but I want to talk about the books that I read in December and I liked a lot, and maybe you could take like some recommendations. So I'm doing this like from the first read book in December 2021 to the last read book. Okay, that's how I'm going to do it. So it's much easier, and you already know my favorites. So yeah, that's that. So let's do one thing. Let's start with book number 1, the first book that I finished in December, and that is Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert. My thoughts on the book would be that I actually didn't like the book much, but I do find that the book is very important in the series. So basically the book kind of picks off a few years after the first book, and it talks about how things are now on Dune, and for that you need to read the first book, Dune. For me, this book was nice. It was not bad, but it ended up being a 4-star read only because I really loved the first book, and I've heard that nothing can beat the first book in the Dune series. Okay, so this is okay if you want to explore more about Dune and you want to read like all the books in the series. But if you are not like into the series, or if you're not into Dune as well, I think reading like the second book does not, I won't encourage it. But the point is that let me read the third book also, because generally if you just read the first 3 books, you're like at a good enough place and then you can decide. So let me read the third book and let you know how it actually goes. Okay, so yeah, that's that. The second book that I finished, I have a physical copy of the book right here, and this was also in my fiction favorites list. This is Jasmine Days by Benjamin, and I finished this in this month. And while I was reading this time was when actually, when I started reading this and all, the farm laws were repealed. Okay, and the book is about a revolution in an unnamed, Gulf country, and it talks about the plight of South Asian immigrants in Gulf countries. It is a very enlightening book about revolution, and I learned a lot through this book. And this was there in my fiction underdog list. If you've not watched the video, it's down in the description box below. Please go ahead and watch it. And it's translated from Malayalam by Shehnaz Habib. Okay, and it's interesting. Let me just tell you, to be very honest, it's a very interesting read. It talks about like a very nuanced topic and a nuanced perspective on revolution and protests, because there were a lot of protests in India and around the world in 2021, and that's why this kind of struck a chord with me. And if you want to read this book, Jasmine Days and Al Arab Novel Factory are a part of the same series technically. So the author recommends that you buy both of them together and then read it accordingly. Okay, so I do recommend this if you're looking for some translated literature. This is something that is very nice. It's a very nice book, and it is a very good contemporary translated book. Okay, so yeah, that's that. And that being said, that gets to my next book, which really shattered me, that really made me numb, and it's like a total 5 stars for me. And if you don't read it, I'm really going to insert anyway, you get my point. You're supposed to read this book, and that's this one. This is Mother of 1084 by Mahashweta Devi, again translated, so this is translated from Bangla to English by Sameek Bandyopadhyay. And let me just tell you, this book is great. Okay, like this book just made me numb at the end of it. The book is actually about a mother who is kind of distraught because her son is no more. Okay, that's all I'm going to tell you. You'll get details and a lot of information from the book about what, how, when, where. But the mother is like totally restless because she's not been able to move on from her son's death, right? And that's very, very important to note because it talks about it talks about the grief, the loss, the dilemma that a mother goes through, although the entire family has forgotten about the son's death. Okay, highly recommended, highly, highly, highly recommended. Please do go ahead and read this, and especially if you get hands on this copy. I absolutely love this translated version by Samik Bandyopadhyay, and the translation's like good as well. So go ahead, read it. Absolutely brilliant book. Yes, that's all I can tell you about this one. And that being said, the next book that I read in this month was it's not The French Exit, it's just French Exit by Patrick Dewitt, or Dewitt, I think that's how you pronounce it, who's a Canadian author, by the way. And this book was actually, I think it's also been made into a movie in 2020 or something, or like a couple of years back. And this book is about a socialite, like an American socialite who faces some financial problems, and she, along with her son, run to Paris to kind of escape the issues. Okay, it's a very interesting book. It's supposed to be humorous, and it was humorous. I liked it. It was like it's like a read that you read like if you want to get out of your reading slump, like that kind of a book. Basically, it's fun. It's how do I say, like it tickles your funny bone, basically. But I think, like, again, most of these Western oriented books and most of these books that are deemed as humor in the Western hemisphere may not kind of relate to people in the Eastern hemisphere because humor can differ from culture to culture. But if you're looking forward to something that's like Western humor and you want to like explore more of it, then maybe this is a good read. And it does not only like concentrate on humor, it is also about like serious topics, which talks about relationships that people have with one another. But there were like real funny scenes in this in this in the book that I really loved a lot. So yeah, I mean, you get my point. I mean, try it out only if it is your cup of tea. That's all. Okay. And that being said, the next book that I finished was Minor Detail by Miss Shibley. I only remember her last name. I think it's Adiana. This is from memory. But the thing is that Minor Detail was one of the most famous books around during, I think, earlier mid this year because of the Israel-Palestine conflict that was going on, and I decided to pick it up because it was short, and also I wanted to like learn about it. So right off the bat, let me just tell you that this is not like one of those books that you kind of read when you want to learn about this conflict. Okay, it's a good addition to the conflict, but then I don't recommend starting from here because I started from here and I didn't find it to be very I would say it didn't like add more value to what I already knew. Like it added a lot of value, not like it didn't add value, but it added a lot of emotional value, and like the like information was also good. And you get my point. Like better read some other book which I'm still in search of, and if you have any recommendations, please do give it to me because I really not like that well read on the Israel-Palestine conflict. But then let me just tell you, it's a good book. It's not a bad book. It kind of starts off with an Israeli camp, in 1947 or 1948 on the outskirts of Israel, and then it just moves towards like there's this horrendous incident, and the second part it's like a totally different story. So the book has two parts, which talks about like these people from Palestine and how they've been mistreated. It's an important book, but not the first place to start if you are looking for to have some information on the conflict. Okay, I hope that was clear because that was all over the place. But anyway, that being said, the next book that I read this month was 9 Lives by William Dalrymple. And for God's sake, don't get this book on Audible. Okay, don't read the audiobook of this book. The book is brilliant. I highly recommend this book, but the reason why I really hated the book is because this book was read by an Englishman, and that really blew me off because there are a lot of like mispronunciations that you see because Indian names are supposed to be like pronounced in a certain way, and when you're reading an Indian book, you're expecting an Indian to be reading the book to you. But the vibe of the book totally sucked because it was a Britisher reading it, and like there were a lot of like words that I didn't kind of understand, and I had to go and Google, and I was like, oh, this is the word, like really, this is how you were pronouncing it, like, and it was just like a joy killer or a killjoy joy killer. It was just like killjoy literally, because this book is brilliant, it's very well researched, and it's more of like a travelogue, because William Dalrymple, has traveled all over India, and he wrote these books based on people who follow these very rare traditions or rituals, or folk traditions or rituals when it comes to their respective religions. But you get my point, right? I mean, it's very interesting and it's very nice. I would say go ahead, read the physical copy of the book or the ebook, but don't do the audiobook at all unless it's been narrated by an Indian. And what really like annoyed me more was, in order to read the dialogue or the sentences, that William Dalrymple and the particular person mentioned in the book, anybody were having, like, it was an Indian person, like narrating the dialogues, but then for everything else it was just like a Britisher. So why did you just get the Indian in the middle and be like, oh, you know what, like, let's just make the Indian read the whole book, right? I mean, you get my point. Maybe it's like a very cultural thing because it's a book about India and I would like to know more about my own country, but I see that it's a Britisher reading it and not an Indian. So it's something like that because the pronunciations are way off. And that being said, let me get to my last book, and this is my last book. This was gifted to me by my friend Ash. Thank you, Ash, so much. Yay, shout out to Ash. She is at Pages to Heart on Instagram. So go ahead and follow her because she reads some amazing set of books. She gifted me this book, which is my purple scented novel, and I finished it. It's just like a 34-page book, and this was my shortest book of 2021. Absolutely loved it a lot. Of course, I wish it was longer, so this is 4 stars. But then this is actually, I think, a short story that appeared in the New Yorker or the New York Times, something like that. And one sec, is it written somewhere? Because I don't think it's written somewhere. It appeared somewhere, and then people loved it a lot, and then they ended up buying it, or they ended up printing it and people ended up buying it. So it's basically about like 2 friends who are authors, and then one of them does something that's unimaginable, unthinkable, and that's how the story flows. And I don't want to like say much about it. It's just a 34-page read, and you'll get this for free on the internet as well. So just FYI. So if you don't want to spend like money on the book and you want to read it, it's available for free on the internet. Just type my purple scented novel by Ian McEwan, and it's even there on Kindle, so you can like read it anywhere. Okay, so very nice book, short story, highly recommended. I wish I would have shared this book like yesterday when it was 31st, but then I did not. But you know what, something for December 2022 if you want to read like short AF books. So yeah, that's that. And yes, that's it. That's my December wrap up. I had to do this ritual. I had to do this no matter what. So this video is going to be there in my end of the year playlist as well as in my monthly wrap up playlist, because I have a separate playlist for monthly wrap up as well. It's linked down in the description box below if you're interested to see what books I read in all of the months throughout 2021. Because I think that's like a more structured way I do it. When I do the end of the year thing, many of the books get filtered out. Many of the good books also get filtered out, and it's only the best that comes up. Because for example, like I don't mention 9 Lives in my non-fiction list because the audiobook put me off. But just the other day, I kind of recommended it to someone and they bought it. So, that makes me feel awesome. So, yeah, I mean, the point is watch the monthly wrap-ups as well. And, if you feel like any book is interesting, do go ahead and buy it. Okay. So yeah, that being said, this is it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for tuning into the end of the year series. The playlist is down in the description box if you want to check out. So every day it was a different video. So on 27th we did all the books that I read in 2021. On 28th I did my favorite fiction 2021. It was non-fiction favorites on Wednesday. On Thursday, I did Worst of 2021. And yesterday, I did my data stats and reading recap. telling you what was my statistics and reading data like in the past year. Okay, so as I said, have a very nice year, safe year, and tomorrow's video is very interesting because it's going to be my reading goals for 2022. Okay, and that's the last video in the series. I hope you tune in, and thank you so much for watching the series and watching this video. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.